Hey, good dudes and followers and constructive critics. At the outset, I wish you and your beloved a safe journey in 2021 too. In spite of the second COVID wave sweeping India with high mortality rates, besides other natural calamities. Its social activists come good-hearted precursor yesterday is back with the sheer ecstasy for my 144th video, right? Yeah, 144th. Yeah, on my 144th video is in pipeline for publication on YouTube today, 17 June 2021 Thursday. The topic for today is child marriages in India and its adverse consequences. Child marriage is a marriage or similar union, formal or informal, between a child and an adult or another child under a certain age, typically age 18. The vast majority of child marriages are between a girl and a man and are rooted in gender inequality. Although the age of mature majority, legal adulthood, and marriageable age are usually designated at age 18, both vary across countries and therefore the marriageable age may be older or younger in a given country. Even where the age is set at 18 years, cultural traditions may override legislation, and many jurisdictions permit earlier marriage with the parental consent or in special circumstances such as teenage pregnancy. Child marriage violates the rights of children and has widespread and long-term consequences for child brides and child groups. For girls, in addition to mental health issues and a lack of access to education and career opportunities, this includes adverse health effects as a result of early pregnancy, including teen pregnancy and childbirth. There is little research on boys in child marriages, but effects on boys include being ill prepared for certain responsibilities such as providing for the family, early fatherhood, and lack of access to education and career opportunities. Child marriage is related to child betrothal, and it includes civil cohabitation and court approved early marriages after teenage pregnancy. Causes of child marriages include poverty, bride price, dowry, cultural traditions, religious and social pressures, regional customs, fear of the child remaining unmarried into adulthood, illiteracy, and perceived inability of women to work for money. Research indicates that comprehensive sex education can help to prevent child marriage. Child marriages have been common throughout history and continue to be fairly widespread, particularly in developing countries such as parts of Africa, South Asia, Southeast Asia, West Asia, Latin America, and Oceania. However, even in developed countries such as the US, legal exceptions still allow child marriage in 46 US states. The incidence of child marriage has been falling in most parts of the world. 2018 data from UNICEF showed that about 21% of young women worldwide aged 20 to 24 were married as children. That is a 25% decrease from 10 years previously. The countries with the highest observed rates of child marriages below the age of 18 were Niger, Chad, Mali, Bangladesh, Guinea, and Central African Republic, Mozambique, and Nepal, with rates above 50%. Niger, Chad, Bangladesh, Mali, and Ethiopia were the countries with child marriages rates greater than 20% below the age of 15, according to 2003 to 2009 surveys. Globally, an estimated 12 million girls annually are being married under the age of 18. Before the Industrial Revolution, in many parts of the world, including India, China, and Eastern Europe, women tended to marry immediately after reaching puberty in their mid-teens. Societies where most of the population lived in small agricultural communities were characterized by these marriage practices well into the 19th century. Men tended to marry later in societies where a married couple was expected to establish a household of their own. That usually meant that men remain unmarried until they accumulated sufficient wealth to support a new home and were married in their mature age. The adolescent girls who contributed a dowry to the family finances. In ancient and medieval societies, it was common for girls to be betrothed at or even before the age of puberty. According to M.A. Friedman, arranging and contracting the marriage of a young girl were the undisputed prerogatives of a father in ancient history. Most girls were married before the age of 15, often at the start of their puberty. In the Middle Ages, the age of marriage seems to have been around puberty throughout the Jewish world. Ruth Landon writes that numerous references to child marriage in the 16th century literature and other sources shows that child marriage was so common it was virtually the norm standard. In this context, it is important to remember in halakha the term minor refers to a girl under 12 years and a day. A girl aged 12 and a half was already considered an adult in all aspects. In ancient Greece, early marriage and motherhood for girls existed. Even boys were expected to marry in their teens. Early marriages and teenage motherhood were typical. In ancient Rome, females could marry above the age of 12 and males could marry above the age of 14. In the Middle Ages and the English civil laws that were derived from Roman laws, marriages before the age of 16 existed. In imperial China, child marriage was the norm. In contrast to other pre-modern societies, and for reasons that are subject to debate, Northwest Europe was characterized by relatively late marriages for both men and women, with both genders commonly delaying marriage until the mid-20s or even 30s. The data available for England suggests that it was already the case in the 14th century. This pattern was reflected in English common law, which was the first in Western Europe to establish statutory rape laws and ages of consent for marriage. In 1275, sexual relations with girls under either 12 or 14, depending on interpretation of the sources, were criminalized. A second law was made with more severe punishments for under the age of 10 in 1576. In the late 18th and early 19th centuries, the British colonial administration introduced marriage age restrictions for Hindu and Muslim girls on the Indian subcontinent. A Scottish physician living in the 18th century Syria reported that locals tried to contract marriages for the children at a young age, but the marriage was not consummated until the girl had come of age. Evidence from the 19th century Palestine suggests that husbands sometimes initiated sexual relations before their wife reached puberty, but that it was a very rare occurrence, condemned socially and censored by Sharia courts. Writing in the 1830s, Edward William Lane observed that few Egyptian girls remained single by the age of 16. But socio-economic transformation, educational reforms, and influence of Western norms brought significant changes, and by 1920, fewer than 10% of Egyptian women married before the age of 20. All of you know about Taj Mahal, right? Built by Emperor Shah Jahan. When he married Mumtaz Begum, she was hardly 13. Okay, in memory of her, only built Taj Mahal. Okay, it's a cemetery, not a place for romance. Okay, that is how they portray. In 1923, Egypt's parliament set the minimum age of marriage at 16 for women and 18 for men. Most of the religions known in history have established a minimum age for marriage in one way or another. Christian canon law forbade the marriage of a girl before the onset of age of puberty, and the Hindu holy book, the Vedas, after the age of puberty. In the Vedas, marriage is shown to be between two adult persons after the brahmacharya stage. The Vedas Specifically, the Rig Veda and Atharva Veda have verses that clearly indicate that during the Vedic period, girls married well after attaining puberty and were of a mature age. The early Dharma Sutras also state that girls should be married after they have attained puberty, while some texts extend the marriageable age to before puberty. In the Manusmriti, which was not implemented as law, a father is considered to have wronged his daughter if he fails to marry her before puberty, and if the girl is not married in less than 3 years after reaching puberty, she can search for the husband herself. Jewish scholars and rabbis, not rabbis, rabbis, Jewish, okay, the distinct priests strongly discourage marriages before the onset of puberty, but at the same time, in exceptional cases, girls ages 3 to 12, the legal age of consent according to halakha, might be given in marriage by a father. By Judaism, the minimal girl age for marriage was 12 years and 1 day. According to halakha, girls should not marry until they are 12 years and 6 months old. That is adult. Although Moses Maimonides mentions in the Talmud Mishneh Torah, compiled between 1170 and 1180 CE, that in exceptional cases, girls ages 3 to 12 might be given in marriage by a father. He also clarifies in verse 3 to 19 of the same chapter that although a father has the option of consecrating his daughter to anyone he desires while she is a minor or while she is a maiden, it is not proper for him to act in this manner. According to 1907 Catholic Encyclopedia, apocryphal accounts that at the time of a betrothal to Joseph, Mary, the mother of Jesus, was 12 to 14 years old. Mary, historically within the Catholic Church, prior to 1917 Code of Canon Law, the minimum age for a dissoluble betrothal was 7 years in the contractees. The minimum age for a valid marriage was puberty, or nominally 14 for males and 12 for females. The 1917 Code of Canon Law raised the minimum age for a valid marriage at 16 for males and 14 for females. The 1983 Code of Canon Law maintained the minimum age for a valid marriage at 16 for males and 14 for females. The English ecclesiastical law forbade marriage of a girl before the age of puberty. That is a common minimum marriage age defined in traditional Islamic law, and the legal discussion of this topic centered primarily on women's physical maturity. Classical Sunni jurisprudence shows a father to contract a marriage for his underage girl. The appropriate age for consummating the marriage, which could occur several years after signing the marriage contract, was to be determined by the groom, and the bride's guardian, since medieval jurists held that the age of fitness for intercourse was too variable for legislation. This was based in part on the precedent set by the Islamic prophet Muhammad, as described in the Hadith collections, considered to be authentic by Muslims. According to these sources, Muhammad married Aisha, his third wife, when she was about 6, and consummated the marriage when she was about 9. Prophet Muhammad. Some modern Muslim authors and Islamic scholars such as Ali Goma, who served as the Grand Mufti of Egypt, doubt the traditionally accepted narrative and believe, based on the other evidence, that Aisha was in her late teens at the time of her marriage. As a general rule, intercourse was prohibited for girls not able to undergo it on the grounds of potential physical harm. Disputes regarding physical maturity between the involved parties were to be resolved by a judge, potentially after examination by a female expert witness. The 1917 codification of Islamic family law in the Ottoman Empire distinguished between the age of competence for marriage, which was set at 18 for boys and 17 for girls, and the minimum age for marriage set at 12 for boys and 9 for girls. Marriages below the age of competence was permissible only if proof of sexual maturity was accepted in court, while marriage under the minimum age was forbidden. During the 20th century, Sharia-based legislation in most countries in the Middle East followed the Ottoman precedent in defining age of competence while raising the minimum age to 15 or 16 for boys and 13 to 16 for girls. In 2019, Saudi Arabia raised the age of marriage to 18. Despite the fact that by the beginning of the 21st century, the laws of most countries established the general minimum age for marriage at 18 years in many countries, and not only in developing or religious ones. There are exceptions that allow marriage before this age with the consent of their parents and are by court decision. In some countries, religious a religious marriage is still recognized by the state authorities along with the secular marriage or even instead of it. In others, a registered civil marriage is mandatory. Civil marriage has lasting consequences on girls from the health, mental and physical, education and social development perspectives. These consequences last well beyond adolescence. One of the most common causes of death for girls aged 15 to 19 in developing countries was pregnancy and childbirth. In Niger, which is estimated as having the highest rate of child marriage in the world, about 3 and 4 girls marry before their 18th birthday. Boys are sometimes married as children. UNICEF states that girls are disproportionately affected by the practice. Globally, the prevalence of child marriage among boys is just one-sixth that among girls. Research on the effects of child marriage on underage boys is scant, while which researchers state is likely because child marriage involving boys is less common and girls being at risk for adverse health effects as a result of early pregnancy and childbirth. The effects of child marriage on boys include being ill-prepared for certain responsibilities such as providing for the family, early fatherhood, and the lack of access to education and career opportunities. As of September 2014, 156 million living men were married as underage boys. In its first in-depth analysis of child births, UNICEF revealed that an estimated 115 million boys and men around the world were married as children. Of these, 1 in 5 children, or 23 million, were married before the year 15. 1-5. According to the data, the Central African Republic has the highest prevalence of child marriage among males, 28%, followed by Nicaragua, 19%, and Madagascar, 13%. The estimates being the total number of child brides and child grooms to 765 million. Girls remain disproportionately affected, with 1 in 5 young women aged 20 to 24 years old married before the 18th birthday compared to 1 in 30 young men. According to UNFPA, factors that promote and reinforce child marriage include poverty and economic survival strategies, gender inequalities, stealing land or property deeds or settling disputes, control over sexuality and protecting family honor, tradition and culture, and insecurity, particularly during war, famine, or epidemics. That's happening. Pandemic. Other factors include family ties, in which marriage is a means of consolidating powerful relations between families. This used to happen during the when kings existed. Okay. There is a saying that King Dasaratha had 10,000 wives. Providing a girl with a dowry at her marriage is an ancient practice which continues in some parts of the world. This requires parents to bestow property on the marriage of a daughter, which is often an economic challenge for many families. The difficulty to save and preserve wealth for dowry was common, particularly in times of economic hardship, persecution, or unpredictable seizure of property and savings. These difficulties press families to betroth their girls, irrespective of the age, as soon as they had the resources to pay the dowry. European Jews would marry the girls early once they had collected an expected amount of dowry. A bride price is the amount paid by the groom to the parents of the bride for them to consent to him marrying the daughter. Bride price that exists in Nepal and others because females are very sharp. Male-female proportion is very skewed. There are very few girls in comparison to boys. So it's very common, even 4-5 people will marry one girl in Nepal, even now. In some countries, the younger the bride, the higher the price she may fetch. Like Panjali, no? In Mahabharata. This practice creates an economic incentive where girls are sought and married early by her family to the highest bidder. Child marriages of girls is a way of desperate economic conditions or simply a source of income to the parents. Bride price is another cause of child marriage and child trafficking. Bride kidnapping and bride napping. Marriage by abduction or marriage by capture is a practice in which male abducts a female he wishes to marry. Bride kidnapping has been practiced around the world and throughout history. Kings used to do that whenever there is a war between the countries. It continues to occur in countries in Central Asia, the Caucasus region, and parts of Africa, and among people as diverse as the Hmong in Southeast Asia, the Siltal in Mexico, and Romania in Europe. In most nations, a bride kidnapping is considered a crime rather than a valid form of marriage. Some types of it may also be seen as falling along a continuum between forced marriage and arranged marriage. However, even when the practice is against the law, judicial enforcement remains lax in many areas. In some areas, bride kidnapping occurs in various parts of the world, but it is most common in the Caucasus and Central Asia. Bride kidnapping is often but not always a form of child marriage. It may be connected to the practice of bride price and the inability or willingness to pay. Social upheavals such as wars, major military campaigns, forced religious conversion, taking natives as prisoners of war, and converting them into slaves, arrest and forced migrations of people often made suitable grooms rare commodity. Groom's bride's families would seek out any available bachelors and marry them to their daughters before events beyond their control moved that boy away. Persecution and displacement of Roma and Jewish people in Europe, colonial campaigns to get slaves from various ethnic groups in West Africa across the Atlantic for plantations, Islamic campaigns to get Hindu slaves from India across Afghanistan's Hindu Kush as property and for work, were some of the historical events that increased the practice of child marriage before the 19th century. Among Sephardi Jewish communities, child marriages before became frequent from the 10th to 13th centuries, especially in Muslims. This practice intensified after the Jewish community was expelled from Spain and resettled in the Ottoman Empire. Child marriages among the Eastern Sephardic Jews continued through the 18th century in Islamic majority regions. A sense of social security has been a cause of child marriages across the world. For example, in Nepal, parents fear likely social stigma if adults past 18 years stays at home. Other fear of crime such as rape, which is not only traumatic but may lead to less acceptance of the girl if she becomes victim of a crime. For example, girls may not be seen as eligible for marriage if they are not virgins. In other cultures, the fear is that an unmarried girl may engage in illicit relationships or elope, causing a permanent social blemish to her siblings, or that the impoverished family may be unable to find bachelors for grown-up girls in the economic social group. Such fears and social pressures have been proposed as causes that have led to child marriages. Insofar as child marriage is a social norm in practicing communities, the elimination of child marriage must come through a changing of those social norms. The mindset of the communities and what is believed to be a proper outcome for a child bride must be shifted to bring about a change in the prevalence of child marriage. Extreme poverty may make daughters an economic burden on the family, which may be relieved by the early marriage to the benefit of the family as well as the girl herself. Poor parents may have fewer alternatives they can afford for the girls in the family. They often view marriage as a means to ensure the daughter's financial security and to reduce the economic burden of a growing adult on the family. Child marriage can also be seen as a means of ensuring a girl's economic security, particularly if she lacks family members to provide for her. In reviews of Jewish community history, scholars claim poverty, shortage of grooms, uncertain social and economic conditions were a cause for frequent child marriages. An additional factor causing child marriage is the parental belief that early marriage offers protection. Parents feel that marriage provides a daughter with a sense of protection from sexual promiscuity and safe from sexually transmitted diseases. However, in reality, young girls tend to marry older men, placing them at an increased risk of contracting a sexually transmitted infection. Protection through marriage may play a specific role in conflict settings. Families may have the young daughters marry members of an armed group or military in hopes that she will be protected. Girls may also be taken by armed groups and forced into marriages. Marriageable age differs depending on religion, country, etc. Child marriages may depend upon socio-economic status. The aristocracy in some cultures, as in the European feudal era, tended to use child marriages as a method to secure political ties. Families were able to cement political and financial ties by having their children marry. The betrothal is considered a binding contract upon the families and the children. The breaking of a betrothal can have serious consequences both for the families and for the betrothed individuals themselves. According to UNICEF, Africa has the highest incidence rates of child marriage, with over 50% of girls marrying under the age of 18 in 5 nations. In many traditional systems, a man pays a bride price to the girl's family in order to marry her, comparable to the customs of dowry and dower. In many parts of Africa, this payment in cash, cattle, or other valuables decreases as a girl gets older. Even before a girl reaches puberty, it is common for a married girl to leave her parents to be with her husband. Many marriages are related to poverty, with the parents needing the bride price of a daughter to feed, clothe, educate and house the rest of the family. In Mali, the female-male ratio of marriage before 18 is 72 to 1. In Kenya, 21 to 1. Girls in West and Central Africa have the highest risk of marrying in childhood. Niger has one of the highest rates of child marriages in sub-Saharan Africa. Child marriage is common in Latin America and the Caribbean island nations. About 29% of the girls are married before the age 18. Dominican Republic, Honduras, Brazil, Guatemala, Nicaragua, Haiti, and Ecuador report some of the highest rates in the Americas, while Bolivia and Guyana have shown the sharpest decline in child marriage rates as of 2012. Brazil is ranked fourth in the world in terms of absolute numbers of girls married or cohabitating by age 15. Poverty and lack of laws mandating minimum age for marriage have been cited as the main reasons for child marriage in Latin America. In an effort to combat the widespread belief among poor, rural, and indigenous communities that child marriage is out of poverty, some NGOs, non-governmental organizations, are working with communities in Latin America to shift the norms and create safe spaces for adolescent girls. In Guatemala, early marriage is most common among indigenous Mayan communities. In southeastern Colombia, historically, the indigenous Nasa sometimes married at early ages to dissuade colonizers from coercively taking girls. More than half of child marriages occur in the South Asian countries of India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Nepal. There was a decrease in the rates of child marriage across South Asia from 1991 to 2007, but the decrease was observed among adolescent girls and not girls in the late teens. Some scholars believe this age-specific reduction was linked to girls increasingly attending school until about age 15 and then marrying. According to UNICEF's State of the World's Children 2009 report, 47% of India's women aged 20 to 24 married before the legal age of 18, with 56% marrying before the age 18 in rural areas. The report is also showed that 40% of the world's child marriages occur in India. 40%. As with Africa, the UNICEF report is based on data that is derived from a small sample. As with Africa, the UNICEF report is based on data that is derived from a small sample survey in 1999. The latest available UNICEF report for India uses 2004 to 5 household survey data on a small sample, and other scholars report lower incidence rates for India. 2005 small sample household survey data suggests 22% of girls ever married aged 16 to 18. 20% of girls in India married between 13 to 16, and 2.6% married before age 13. According to 2011 nationwide census of India, the average age of marriage for women in India is 21. The child marriage rates in India, according to 2009 representative survey, dropped to 7%. In its 2001 demographic report, the census of India stated zero married girls before age 10. 1.4 million married girls out of 59.4 million girls in the age 10 to 14, and 11.3 million married girls out of 46.3 million girls in the age 15 to 19, which includes 18 to 19 age group. For 2011, the Census of India reports that child marriage rates dropping further to 3.7% of females aged less than 18 being married. The Child Marriage Restraint Act of 1929 was passed during the tenure of British rule on colonial India. It forbade the marriage of male younger than 21 or a female younger than 18 for Hindus, Buddhists, Christians, and most people of India. However, this law did not and currently does not apply to India's 165 million Muslim population, it will be more than that, and only applies to India's Hindu, Christian, Jain, Sikh, and other religious minorities. This link of law and religion was formalized by the British colonial rule with the Muslim personal laws codified in the Indian Muslim Personal Law Sharia Application Act of 1937. The age at which India's Muslim girls can legally marry according to this Muslim personal law is 9 and can be lower if her guardian decides she is sexually mature. Over the last 25 years, All India Muslim Personal Law Board and other Muslim civil organizations have actively opposed India-wide laws and enforcement action against child marriages. They have argued that Indian Muslims families have a religious right to marry a girl aged 15 or even 12. Several states of India claim especially high child marriage rates in the Muslim and tribal communities. India, with a population of over 1.4 billion as of now, has the world's highest total number of child marriages. It is a significant social issue. As of 2016, the situation has been legally rectified by the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006. According to National Plan of Action for Children 2005, published by Indian government's Department of Women and Child Development, set a goal to eliminate child marriage completely by the year 2010. This is year 2021. In 2006, the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006 was passed to prohibit solemnization of child marriages. This law states that men must be at least 21 years of age and women must be at least 18 years of age to marry. Some Muslim organizations plan to challenge the new law in the Supreme Court of India in later years. Various high courts in India, including the Gujarat High Court, the Karnataka High Court, and Madras High Court, have ruled that the Act provides over any personal law, including Muslim personal law. Child marriage has lasting consequences on girls that last well beyond adolescence. Women married in their teens or earlier struggle with the health effects of pregnancy at a young age and often with a little spacing between children. Early marriages followed by teen pregnancy also significantly increase birth complications and social isolation. In poor countries, early pregnancy limits or can even eliminate women's education options, affecting their economic independence. Girls in child marriages are more likely to suffer from domestic violence, child sexual abuse, and marital rape. Child marriage threatens the health and life of girls. Complications from pregnancy and childbirth are the main cause of death among adolescent girls before the age 19 in developing countries like India. Girls aged 15 to 19 are twice as likely to die in childbirth as women in their 20s, and girls under the age of 15 are 5 to 7 times more likely to die during childbirth. Their bodies are not that developed. Teen pregnancy, particularly below age 15, increases risk of developing obstetric fistula since the smaller pelvises make them prone to obstructed labor. Girls who give birth before the age of 15 have an 88% risk of developing fistula. Fistula leaves its victims with urine or fecal incontinence that causes lifelong complications with infection and pain. Unless surgically repaired, obstetric fistulas can cause years of permanent disability, shame to mothers, and can result in being shunned by the community. Married girls also have a higher risk of sexually transmitted diseases, cervical cancer, and malaria than non-married peers or girls who marry in their 20s. Child marriage also threatens the lives of offspring. Mothers under the age of 18 years have 35 to 55% increased risk of delivering preterm or having low birth weight baby than a mother who is 19 years old. In addition, infant mortality rates are 60% higher when the mother is under 18 years old. Infants born to child mothers tend to have weaker immune systems and face a heightened risk of malnutrition. Prevalence of child marriage may also be associated with high rates of population growth, more cases of children left orphan, and the accelerated spread of diseases. Child marriage often ends a girl's education, particularly in impoverished countries where child marriages are very common. In addition, uneducated girls are more at risk for child marriage. Girls who have only a primary education are twice as likely to marry before age 18 than those with a secondary or higher education. And girls with no education are 3 times more likely to marry illiterates before the age of 18 than those with a secondary education. Early marriage impedes young girl's ability to continue with the education as most drop out of school following marriage to focus their attention on domestic beliefs, on domestic duties, and having or raising children. Girls may be taken out of school years before they are married due to family or community beliefs that allocating resources for girls' education is unnecessary, given that their primary roles will be that of a wife and mother. Without education, girls and adult women have fewer opportunities to earn an income and financially provide for themselves and their children. This makes girls more vulnerable to persistent poverty if the spouses die, abandon them, or divorce them. Given that girls in child marriages are often significantly younger than their husbands, they become widowed earlier in life, may face associated economic and social challenges for a greater portion of their life than women who marry later. Married teenage girls with low levels of education suffer greater risk of social isolation and domestic violence than more educated women who marry as adults. Following marriage, girls frequently relocate to their husband's home and take on the domestic role of being a wife, which often involves relocating to another village or area. This transition may result in a young girl dropping out of school, moving away from her family and friends, and the loss of the social support she once had. A husband family may also have a higher expectations for a girl's submissiveness to her husband in the family because of her youth. This sense of isolation from a support system can have severe mental health implications, including depression. Large age gaps between the child and her spouse makes her more vulnerable to domestic violence and marital rape. Girls who marry as children face severe and life-threatening marital violence at higher rates. Husbands in child marriages are often more than 10 years older than their wives. This can increase the power and control a husband has over his wife and contribute to prevalence of spousal violence. Early marriage places young girls in a vulnerable situation of being completely dependent on their husband. Domestic and sexual violence from the husbands has lifelong devastating mental health consequences for young girls because they are at a formative stage of the psychological development. These mental health consequences of spousal violence can include depression and suicidal thoughts. Child brides also face social isolation, emotional abuse, and discrimination in the homes of their husbands and in-laws. The United Nations, through a series of conventions, has declared child marriage as a violation of human rights. The Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination of Women, (CEDAW), and Committee on Rights for the Child, (CRC), the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, form the international standard against child marriage. Child marriage's impact violates a range of women's interconnected rights, such as equality on grounds of sex and age, to receive the highest attainable standard of health, to be free from slavery, access to education, freedom of movement, freedom from violence, reproductive rights, and the right to consensual, consensual marriage. The consequence of these violations impact women, her children, and the broader society. In December 2011, a resolution adopted by the United Nations General Assembly A/ERES/66/170 designated October 11 as the International Day of the Girl Child. On October 11, 2012, the first International Day of the Girl Child was held, the theme of which was ending child marriage. In 2013, the first United Nations Human Rights Council resolution against child, early and forced marriages was adopted. It recognizes child marriage as a human rights violation and pledges to eliminate the practice as part of the United Nations post-2015 Global Development Agenda. In 2014, the UN's Commission on Status of Women issued a document in which they agreed, among other things, to eliminate child marriage. The World Health Organization recommends increased educational attainment among girls, increased enforcement structures for existing minimum marriage age laws, and informing parents in practicing communities of the risks associated as primary methods to prevent child marriages. Programs to prevent child marriage have taken several different approaches. Various initiatives are aimed to empower young girls educate parents on the associated risks, change community perception, support girls' education, and provide economic opportunities for girls in the families through means other than marriage. A survey of a variety of prevention programs found that initiatives were most effective when they combined efforts to address financial constraints, education, and limited employment of women. Girls in families participating in an unconditional cash transfer program in Malawi aimed at insensitivizing girls' education, married, and had children later than their peers who had participated in the program. The program's effects on rates of child marriages were greater for unconditional cash transfer programs than those with conditions. Evaluators believe this demonstrated that the economic needs of the family heavily influenced the appeal of child marriage in this community. Therefore, reducing financial pressures on the family decreased the economic motivations to marry daughters off at a young age. The Haryana state government in India operated a program in which poor families were given a financial incentive if they keep the daughters in school and unmarried until the age 18. Girls in families who are eligible for the program were less likely to be married before age 18 than their peers. A similar program was operated in 2004 by the Population Council of the regional government in Ethiopia's rural Amhara region. Families receive cash if the daughters remain in school and unmarried during the 2 years of the program. They also instituted mentorship programs, livelihood training, community conversations about girls' education and child marriage, and gave school supplies for girls. After the 2-year program, girls in families eligible for the program were 3 times more likely to be in school and 1/10 as likely to be married compared to their peers. In the other free program, the Global Campaign for the Prevention of Child Marriage, CGPCM, has been launched in March 2019, and the primary goal of this campaign is raising awareness and illuminating people's minds to address child marriage in the world. Other programs have addressed child marriage less directly through a variety of programming related to girls' empowerment, education, sexual and reproductive health, financial literacy, life skills and communication skills, and community mobilization. In 2018, UN Women announced that Jaha Dukru would serve as goodwill ambassador in Africa to help organize to prevent child marriage. Forced child marriage is a life-changing reality for many of the world's girls. Some as young as 8 or 9 are forced to trade their childhoods for a life that can be defined by isolation, violence, and illness. It's a practice rooted more in tradition than religious custom, and one that spans the globe, from Asia to Africa to the Americas. The number of girls who are married as children is astounding. According to UNICEF, in 2007, more than 60 million girls aged 20 to 24 worldwide are married before their 18th birthday. Current trends continues. An additional 100 million girls, or 25,000 to 30,000 girls every day, will become child brides over the next decades. While boys are subjected to early marriage, most child marriages involve girls. Child marriage continues to be a reality for many of the world's girls because of a variety of factors. These include poverty, mainly poverty, lack of education and job opportunities, insecurity in the face of war and conflict, and the force of custom and tradition. At its core, forced child marriage is rooted in tradition, and traditions do change. In fact, forced child marriages have nearly disappeared in several countries because it used to be an entrenched cultural practice only a generation or two ago. These countries include China, Taiwan, Korea, Thailand, and Indonesia. There is no reason why this harmful traditional practice can't become a thing of the past in the countries where it remains common today. The consequences of child marriages are devastating and often determine a life's trajectory. Girls who marry young are at a higher risk of dying during childbirth, having the child die before its first birthday, contracting AIDS, and becoming a victim of domestic violence. In many countries, young married girls move away from the parents' home to live with the husband and his family, where they have no friends, no support, and little say in their own lives in household matters. Research shows that young married girls often are isolated and powerless. Now, cell phone is a powerful weapon for them. They are unable to negotiate or obtain support for issues in their own interest and social networking sites. Okay, and they are frequently exposed to violence and threats of abandonment and divorce. Outside the family door, the doors to schooling are usually closed to young married girls in most countries. This means that they have little chance to prosper later in jobs or as entrepreneurs. Often dependent and with little knowledge and income to support or invest in their children, child brides also end up raising daughters who face the same challenges as the mothers. Any effort aimed at ending forced child marriage must address how to strengthen girls' education programs to ensure that girls stay in school and learn enough for parents to consider it worthwhile to postponing their marriage. Education is the single most important factor associated with the girls marrying before the age of 18. The International Protecting Girls by Preventing Child Marriage Act is a critical step towards increasing U.S. support for the eradication of forced child marriage. The legislation would draw attention to child marriage as human rights abuse by requiring the U.S. Department of State to include child marriage rates in its annual country report on human rights. The bill also calls for integrating child marriage prevention activities into existing USAID development programs. This will increase the effectiveness of U.S. foreign assistance efforts by guaranteeing that girls and young women are able to take advantage of the education, health, and economic development opportunities USAID delivers. If passed, the International Protecting Girls by Preventing Child Marriage Act will strengthen the capacity to local civil society organizations to conduct child marriage prevention activities. And it will encourage more research on child marriage to identify the most promising strategies. The International Protecting Girls by Preventing Child Marriage Act has an unprecedented bipartisan support in both chambers of Congress. Provisions of the legislation would include including the Foreign Relations Authorization Act that passed the House of Representatives in June 2009. Action by Congress through this legislation can achieve many wins. It will improve the return on investment of our ongoing foreign assistance activities. It will protect the human rights of girls around the world, and it will represent a strong statement by the United States that the practice of forced child marriage is unacceptable. Girls around the world have a right to experience childhood, to make friends, go to school, pursue their aspirations, and live a healthy life free from violence. The practice of forced child marriage robs the girls of these opportunities, but it does not need to be this way. We have successful solutions. In many communities, the desire to abandon child marriage exists, and local organizations are doing substantial work. What is lacking is sustained and coordinated support from governments, the international community, and donors. With increased leadership and support, we have the opportunity to significantly diminish the number of child marriages in the next few years. Ending child marriage will yield a double dividend. Not only is it the right thing to do, it is a smart thing to do also. Another major reason is induced by COVID-19. Since parents fearing death marry off their daughters, even though they know pretty well that they are underage. The negative outcomes of child marriage outweighs very few positive outcomes, if you can call them so, like social protection, safety, etc. of child marriages. Besides, best preventive measure would be creating the awareness on education of both genders, besides the adverse effects of child marriages, either forced or arranged. In India, some poor parents marry off their underage daughters to wealthy Arabians, and get lucrative returns, which takes care of the immediate financial needs. This practice is similar to forced prostitution. Governments and people should work as a team to eradicate this wrong practice once and for all, prevalent in developing and underdeveloped countries. It will take some time, but unless otherwise we put in efforts, these evil practices will continue. Debates, discussion on open-ended topics like this can go on forever. Anyhow, let me pull the plug here. We'll meet again real soon with another interesting topic. Some of the statements, views expressed are solely based on limited knowledge gained over 6 decades of versatile experience. Always watch these videos with closed caption, subtitles for absolute 100% comprehension as per my sincere recommendation zillion times so far. I know I rushed through to complete the presentation within 20 minutes max. This time limit is self-imposed to retain the viewer's attention as a norm. I am quite aware of the fact that I exceed this time limit. Sometimes I take double or even triple this time depending on the topic, since I make honest attempts to cover the selected topic more elaborately, including so many intricate fine details, referring a wide variety of sources, in particular Wikipedia quite extensively, besides articles and books published recently. Besides, of course, I sprinkle my own salt and pepper and season it with my personal experiences so far in my life and also intuition. Stay at home as much as possible to maintain social distancing attributed to pandemic novel COVID-19 and prolong your lifespan. Lead a healthy life. God, also known as the supreme power, is the one and only one who can put a stop to natural and unnatural events, maybe bio war and cyber war events like pandemic and epidemics, which ultimately paves the way for apocalypse and extinction of all sentient species on earth for no fault of others. Rest in peace and harmony. Today I must have taken around 50 minutes maybe. Yeah, I'm right. I did not look at the. Deva.